Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Sikhs and yoga students alike should be outraged by the sexual abuses and assaults against yoga students by Kundalini yoga instructor Karta Singh. I know I am outraged by Karta's shameful actions, which tarnishes the reputation of Sikhs around the world, and so I started a petition to stop him and other sexual abusers in the Yogi Bhajan cult. Now, just to give you some background about these complaints against Karta, who is accused of sexually abusing his yoga students. There were numerous complaints from Karta's yoga students that he had been having sex with his students, and at least one account that Karta had been having sex with the wife of one of his ashram members at the Amrit Nam Sovar yoga dera in France. You can see the photo of Karta touching a yoga student, most probably without her permission. Here in this photo right here. This is unethical and could lead to further unwanted sexual advances. I've read several articles by professional yoga teachers, and they say that touching a yoga student in class is completely unacceptable and usually is unwanted by the yoga student and can lead to this further sexual advances and control by the yoga instructor over the student. Now, the other troubling fact that has surfaced in these complaints is that Yogi Bhajan 3HO leaders knew about Karta's sexual abuses against his yoga students for over 10 years, but did nothing to stop it. The current KY trainers and former 3HO members attest in letters at the links in the description to this video that there was an incredible amount of teachers sleeping with students and cheating on their spouses going on in Europe, and many 3HO leaders knew about this more than 10 years ago. Now you can see Karta here commiserating with his 3HO buddies in this picture. This is the environment that was created by Yogi Bhajan around this sexual abuse of yoga students. One only needs to visit Karta's Facebook page to see that his friends list reads like a who's who in the 3HO leadership. 3HO members and SikhNet director like Karta Singh, Satsantokh Singh, Nirvara Singh, just to name a few. All of these are 3HO and KRI leaders. Here's a picture of Karta Singh there on the right, Nirvara Singh, who is the head of Yogi Bhajan's Kundalini Research Institute, and the KY trainers. Karta Singh is on the right there. He's the director of SikhNet, which is Yogi Bhajan's twisted way of showing to the world his Tantric Kundalini Yoga. And then you have Karta Singh there on the left. And there you've got Yogi Bhajan himself, the master sexual abuser. We'll talk about that, how Yogi Bhajan himself has created this and cultivated this environment of sexual abuse in 3HO. My name is Karta Singh. As many of you may know, I was in the Yogi Bhajan Tantric Yoga cult for 30 years and a personal bodyguard to Yogi Bhajan for much of that time in Los Angeles. So I'm very familiar with what really goes on in the Bhajanist cult. I'm there on the right with the brown coat on. This was a picture back in the 1980s. And of course, Yogi Bhajan is over there on the left with all the women. Now, I am of the firm belief that Yogi Bhajan himself was a sexual abuser and even raped his female yoga students. Now, I know this may be hard for many of you to stomach, but the truth is that I witnessed Yogi Bhajan sleeping in the same room alone with his female secretaries, and when these same female secretaries sued Yogi Bhajan for rape and sexual assault, Yogi Bhajan refused to appear and give his deposition in the cases. He would always get medical excuses from his so-called personal Khalsa doctors. But I know for a fact that Yogi Bhajan was healthy enough to give his deposition because we would all go to La Scala and shop all day in Beverly Hills during the same time when the lawsuits were going on in the 1980s. So let there be no doubt about it. Yogi Bhajan could have given his deposition in these lawsuits, but he refused. He didn't want to be under the bright lights and have to tell the truth. I talked to Premka Kaur's attorney, who was representing her in these lawsuits. This was after I left 3HO, about 2009. And he told me that Yogi Bhajan always get excuses from his Khalsa doctors back there in the 1980s, and said that he had heart problems and other things like that. But I know for a fact we would go to La Scala and eat lunch there and shop all day in Beverly Hills during this time. So Yogi Bhajan was just trying to tell the truth about this whole situation. And there have been many other people that I've talked to in 3HO that have said that Yogi Bhajan was lying. Okay? And they just want to cover this up so that they can secure their positions of teaching Kundalini Yoga and continue the money flow coming in. The truth is that Yogi Bhajan cultivated an environment where men in 3HO could get away with sexually abusing women. This is the environment that Yogi Bhajan created. An environment that was toxic and that was an environment where men thought it was okay to abuse and sexually assault women. The last straw for me, when I knew I had to get out from these toxic sexual predators in Yogi Bhajan's cult, was when a male, longtime Yogi Bhajan disciple and so-called friend told me how he had sexually fondled a woman in a one-on-one personal yoga class he was giving her. Now, this male yoga teacher is a certified Kundalini Yoga teacher-trainer and continues to teach Kundalini Yoga to many unsuspecting yoga students. This cannot be allowed to continue and be sanctioned. Now, I also want to point out how Yogi Bhajan had this penchant for drawing sexually explicit phallic symbols. Basically, men's penises. It's not any better than any toilet graffiti, to be honest. He painted these in the 1980s, and unfortunately, YouTube and Facebook will delete these videos if I show them. They're so graphic and so awful. So I've chosen not to do that. This was a book that some of those drawings of Yogi Bhajan were featured in. He called it The Game of Love, and it should have been called The Game of Lust. These are actual facts that Yogi Bhajan drew these phallic drawings. And there's one I can describe where he's drawn a woman inside of a penis, and he's got power written on it. It's just absolutely disgusting. Very shameful. Anyway, I have the originals of these drawings, and there are other pictures that I've posted where you can look at these drawings if you want to see them for yourself. But they're just take it from me. They're absolutely disgusting and shows the complete perversion of Yogi Bhajan and corruption. And then he was really creating this environment around sexual abuse in 3HO. Other Sikh scholars have talked about how Yogi Bhajan's tantric yoga was also creating this environment and this energy, if you will say, for this sexual tantric Kundalini yoga. And so it's a logical outcome that people like Karta, these sexual predators, would latch on to this Yogi Bhajan mentoring, this Yogi Bhajan teachings, that being a sexual predator is okay. That's what Yogi Bhajan instilled in these teachers. 3HO needs to wake up and admit to the sexual assaults and other crimes Yogi Bhajan committed against his yoga students. 3HO needs to stop using Yogi Bhajan as a mentor for how 3HO men should act. If 3HO doesn't change this toxic environment and tear down Bhajan's empire built on lies, these sexual abuses and other crimes will continue and get worse. This was a very good article that came out in 2010. It's called Yogi's Legacy in Question, where former followers say he abused his position, Yogi Bhajan's position, for power, money, and sex. And this describes testimony from Prem Kakar and other former followers about how Yogi Bhajan abused them and used his power for money, power, and sex. Now, in conclusion, I want to encourage everyone, Sikhs, yoga students, everyone, to speak out about this issue. Write 3HO. Write the Kundalini Yoga Institute. Write SikhNet. Sign this petition, and do not let these sexual predators who mooch off of others and take huge amounts of money teaching yoga classes and continue to have power. Don't let them continue to have power over our sisters, mothers, and future generations of women. Thank you for your time. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.